it's fascinating for me that our brains just love to see those dystopian futures, again, like to protect us and say like, oh, I don't want to have that future happening. I think it's going to be a wonderful future. It's going to be a better future if you're going to engage in training your mind, training your body, but also training your soul for the future. The future is something that you create, and it starts with your choices and it starts in your mind. The future is not decided by something else or someone else. It's created by you in every moment. Everybody has the ability to shape the future they want to see happening.
That's Dr. Frederik G. Pferdt. He was Google's first Chief Innovation Evangelist and founder of the Google Innovation Lab. Frederik has helped shape one of the most fabled creative cultures in the world. He's also the author of What's Next is Now, How to Live Future Ready. And he's going to be sharing some of the wisdom from that book right here. So you'll learn 1, what matters more for your future than tech? 2, why to say fantastic when things don't work out. And 3, a handy trick to inspire better follow-through. And if you want to read these takeaways all the faster, or just review afterwards, I recommend you sign up for the Gold Nugget email newsletter, totally free. That's available at awesomeatyourjob.com. I'm Pete Mockaitis. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Frederik. Frederik, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Pete.
I'm excited to have you. I could tell that you are a big thinker and you think about things a little bit differently. So no pressure, but I have a feeling we're going to get into lots of fun, fresh perspectives from you.
You're wonderful. Yeah, but you're right. I hope to think differently about many things, and that gives many people hopefully a different perspective.
All right. Well, could you kick us off with maybe an extra fascinating and surprising discovery you've made as you were researching and putting together your book, What's Next is Now?
The one thing that I really took away is that the future is not something that happens to us, but the future is something that we create. And so actually the starting point of my book was that I left probably one of the best jobs that you can have in a very fascinating company and organization to really dive into the unexpected and to the unknown. And so I wanted to actually practice myself really how to live future ready, and that whatever comes next is actually mostly in your control, and that you can choose what you're going to engage in moving forward. And so that was for me something I really tried to focus on. And that led me to some interesting discoveries.
Well, that's intriguing. Let's dig in. That's kind of a provocative assertion there in terms of we have much control over what our future is. And so some might say, well, hey, Frederik, I have no control over whether AI and robots go and are marching in the streets and doing all kinds of activities, or whether we interact with 3D hologram future things instead of a platform like a Zoom or whatever right now. So what do you mean exactly in terms of we shape the future?
You're absolutely right? All the things you just mentioned might happen or might not happen. But that's a future that you just imagined, right? That has a lot to do with robots and AI and technology, and probably most of these things being out of your control. But what's in your control is how you're going to be in that future. Are you going to be a Pete that is more curious, more kind, more open, more empathetic, more loving? And we can go on using specific qualities that you probably want to see happening in your future. And that's totally in your control. I can show up tomorrow in my future being more kind. I can show up the next year with my partner, my family, my community, my colleagues, whatever it is, be more open, more curious, right? And I think that's what I feel is also the future, and it's mostly your future. So again, what I want to do is help people to move away from these descriptions of the future, which is mostly the outside world, right? That is trends or it's events or it's technologies, whatever that is, and moving towards the future that is inside us, which is the qualities that we actually want to see happening in our lives. Because there's also one interesting thing is that whenever our life will end, what will others remember about you, about the Pete they got to know? And it's mostly probably these qualities that you've built over the years, over your life, and how you showed up every time with other people. So that's the future I want to talk about.
And is it fair to say, with regard to these interior qualities and experiences, that in some ways we will have and experience those things regardless of what technologies do or don't proliferate in our midst?
Absolutely. So if you show up more open and more curious and like to experiment tomorrow in regards to, let's say, AI or a technology, then what I can guarantee is that you're going to see more opportunities. You're going to see an opportunity to find something out, to learn something, to grow in some form or some way. So that's what I think is in your control. You're not controlling the AI or the technology, right? That is built by a company or by a team of people or by someone else, right? That technology is, again, what I consider the outer world. And that is something you can respond to. But you can respond in a way to these, let's say, technologies where you show up being curious, ask questions about it. You can show up and experiment with it, give it a try and see what you can learn from it. And that's totally in your control. And I think that's something where I want to help people to shift their focus on and think maybe differently about.
Mm-hmm. That sounds lovely. Well, tell us, is that how you would articulate the main idea or core thesis of your book, What's Next Is Now, or is that but one facet of it?
It's one facet of it, yes. And the general idea about what's next is now is that the future is not something that happens to us. It's something we make happen. Where I want to argue that when we embrace qualities like optimism, openness, curiosity, experimentation, empathy, which are for me dimensions of what I call a future-ready mindset, when we embrace these qualities, we can navigate uncertainty and turn it into an opportunity. What it means that when we try to really approach the future in a way that we don't ask, what will the future bring, and have a passive stance, but have a more active stance and say, like, what is the future that I want to create? We can embrace those deeply human qualities, show up more optimistic, more open, more curious, and so forth, to really see more opportunities in the future as well. And what it does is it gives you more opportunities, and who doesn't like more opportunities? And the second thing, what it gives you, a little bit more control over your future.
Okay. So let's run through this lineup here, this mindset: optimistic, open, curious. What else composes this future-ready mindset?
The first thing is that it's not a mindset, it's a mind state, which maybe for some a small, but for me, it's a big distinction. I love the work that has been done around mindsets. I think it's a very important message that Carol Dweck and her team put out into the world around a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. I think we are mostly familiar with that. And what's interesting is that people refer to a mindset as something that is based on their belief system, on their values, on their past experiences. And it's something deeply ingrained in us. But how often, to be honest, Pete, if I would ask you, hey, change your mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, a success mindset, a future mindset, whatever it is, how often could you actually change that mindset? It's probably not that often, right? Because it's really hard to change. And so I wanted to help people to have access to something that is more short-term, that is actually something they have control over, and that is more dynamic. And that's a mind state for me. So it's the moment-to-moment perception that you have around how you experience the present. And that is something that you totally can control and change and shift from time to time.
Okay, understood. So a mind state is maybe more analogous to a mood or groove or headspace zone that you're in a given moment.
I like the words that you're using to describe that. Yes.
Okay. So within the mind state, what were those ingredients that you suggest are future ready?
So the dimensions that help you to see more opportunities in your future are optimism, openness, curiosity, experimentation, and empathy. And there's a sixth dimension, which is called Dimension X. So it's not a framework and it's not like a theory where you have to either apply those to your life one by one throughout the day. It's more like what I want to help people to realize is that the good news is that we all have these deeply human qualities, right? We are sometimes open, we are sometimes curious and ask questions. And yeah, sometimes even we like to experiment with something new. What I help people to understand is like, as soon as we dial those up, that we are radically optimistic, unreserved open, compulsive curious, that means that we actually see more opportunities and we are able to, again, control that. We can train our minds to do those things more often. And that is something very powerful that really leads to what I would consider a better future for you.
Yeah. And that adds up. And it really feels so right in terms of my own experience. Like there are times and days and moments where I am all of those things. And there are times when I'm the opposite. And it's like, it's all bull crap. And it's like, what's the use? It's just kind of the opposite of that mind state. And sure enough, being in the former state is more conducive to identifying opportunities than being in the latter state. So tell us then, if that sounds nice, we would like to have more of these things. I mean, they just feel better anyway. It's just more enjoyable place to be, to have these things going on internally. How might we do a shift if we're having one of those days where we're not too curious and we're not too empathetic, we're not too optimistic? How do we like conjure or drum that up or get to that spot?
First of all, I like that you label them as being nice, right? It's a nice to have.
It feels great, yeah.
And that they feel great. I think it's more than that, it's essential, right? It's something that really when you are in that state and saying like you wake up and you feel like the future's out of your control and you feel negative and you even have fear or anxiety that sometimes show up, right? Because again, our minds tend to dislike uncertainty and the future by definition is uncertain. So our minds try to protect us and goes towards like finding all the reasons why you should not get out of bed in the first place, right? Why you probably should make a plan or be negative about something or not pursue an opportunity or open a door to something new that you haven't explored or ask a question, right? All of those things are usually not what your mind recommends you. But I think we can overcome that and we can trick our mind to say, hey, what about if I'm now curious and just ask a question to my coworker, my colleague, my CEO, whoever that might be, or even my partner or my children, right? And I follow that curiosity maybe with a practice around asking 5 whys to go to the root cause of something that I want to find out, right? That also immediately opens up opportunities for you. And there's many more practices that we can do that really helps you to overcome this first initial reaction that we usually have to new situations or towards the future, which is being a little bit more negative, being a little bit more closed, not being curious, and definitely not experimenting with anything new. And then empathy, we're just going to throw out of the window because we want to focus on ourselves first, right? So what I want to help people to do is overcome these to really, as you said, see more opportunities. And who doesn't like to see more opportunities in their future so that we move away from this relationship that most people have now with the future that is, it's going to be decided by someone else. It's not going to be great. And I don't have any control over it, and I have fear or anxiety about the future, which is when you ask most people why they actually want to stay with the status quo or even bring the past back. And that is something fascinating that I had in so many conversations where people said like, yeah, Frederik, you're talking just about the future, never about the past. And I said like, yeah, because the past is something you can't change. It already happened. And I think, and I have a deep belief that the future is going to be better. And why not then focus purely on the future and trying to discover what you can actually control about it?
Well, I'd love to dig into some of the particulars of these practices like the 5 whys. But maybe first, could you share with us a story of someone who was able to make some of these shifts? And they were feeling not so optimistic, open, curious, experimenty, empathetic. And then they took some actions and saw something of a transformation.
Yes, there's many stories. I actually feature 14 people in the book. I call them future readies. It's people I've been able to coach, train, and work with at Google over the years. And those people have just built some remarkable futures for themselves, not in terms of materialistic, right? Most people think like, oh, it's the billionaire or whatever it is. No, it's people who live a happy life, who have impact in what they're doing, who feel that they contribute to society in a very meaningful way. And I think those are things that we all can achieve. So I share stories about those people and how they show up more optimistic again, and they, live a very open life. For example, Adam Leonard, a wonderful human being who practices something in his life that I think we can all draw some inspiration from. And he does what he calls improv hiking trips. And it's inspired by improv theater, right? Improv theater is something where you open up, and whatever is going to be thrown at you, you're trying to accept and build on. So he goes on extended hiking trips, like 3 or 4 months, without any plan, without any set schedule, any journey where he wants to go. He basically just starts. He starts somewhere. And what he reports back all the time is that by being open and purely open, where he doesn't have a plan, no reservations, just his pure curiosity and openness to whatever the journey brings, he comes back with wonderful stories and things that not just happened to him, but also he could have made happen. And I think that's an approach that we all can use, not just in our life, but in our work, in how we do vacations and so forth. And inspired by that, I'm actually taking my family all the time on road trips where we don't have a plan. There is only one rule, that we couldn't go back to the same place twice. And it's really hard in the beginning to convince the family members to go on that trip, right? Because you don't know where you're going to end up. So it's really hard to sell. But whenever we do it and whenever we come back, everybody's super happy and super satisfied because everybody discovered something new. Everybody was growing in a beautiful way. So that's just one of the stories of a future ready that I'd like to share.
That's cool. And so then thinking about being awesome at your job, I mean, that sounds fun. If we go on trips, just see what happens. And what do you know? We have some surprising, delightful things that unfolded as a result. And can you draw the link, the connection from that to, and now we are flourishing in our careers as well?
Absolutely. I think that's an approach that you can also take into your work, right? Being a little bit more open around perspectives other people are having or ideas that are presented to you. Instead of going with a clear no in the first place and saying like, whatever idea is going to be shared with me, I'm just going to say no, right? Because that's the safest thing to do. I don't have to get engaged. I don't have to do something with that idea and so forth. Try to go with a yes or even a yes and. That helps you to engage in an idea or a perspective and helps you to build on it and make it bigger, better, faster, whatever it is, and give it a try. And then see what happens. And most of the time, what happens is that there's a new opportunity actually arising in your work or in a project or in your job. And so to give you an example, when you consider how most organizations probably operate, is that there is a manager or a boss in some form or some way, right? Who maybe sits in an office, and then the team or the employees, they sometimes have ideas, right? Great ideas that they want to share with their boss or their manager to ask for permission to pursue this idea. And then most of the time, what happens immediately is that the manager's brain starts to generate all these reasons why we should not pursue this idea. It's too expensive. We don't have time. We don't have the resources for it. We don't know if it's going to work out, if it's going to get to the results that we want to see happening and so forth. So the manager will actually share as many reasons as possible to not pursue this idea. Safest thing to do, right? Because then you don't take any risk. What happens with the employee is that they are a little bit disappointed, maybe. They leave the office, and what they do is they tell everybody else, like, don't go into this office because your idea is going to be crushed, right? There's going to be only arguments why your idea would not work. So what you could do instead is try a yes approach, a yes and approach. As a manager, whatever idea you're listening to, right? Accept it, build on it, make it bigger, better, and faster, and say like, fantastic, I like your idea. Here are some reasons why we should do it. Here are 30 days you have, some resources in terms of like another team member that might work with you on this idea. Go try it out. And what happens then is the employee leaves very happy the office, tells everyone like, in this office, the ideas will grow. And at the same time, they will try this idea and try to make it work, to then maybe come back after 30 days with two options. The first one is they will report back and say, sorry, it didn't work out. Total failure. Or they come back and say like, yeah, it worked out. We have a new technology, new process, new customer base, whatever it is. And the manager's response should be in both scenarios to say, fantastic, thank you. What did you learn? Because what just happened now is that they helped to learn something new, that the individual, the employee grew, the organization grew by these learnings and so forth. And I think that's one of the examples where you can apply this principle of being open, saying yes, trying to build on other people's ideas that really will drive towards more opportunities and to better results as well.
Yeah, I like that perspective a lot. And I think that takes a little bit of a practice and discipline, because our default reaction is, oh no, what happened? Why? It's not the most natural, intuitive response to say fantastic when the result is not that which you had hoped for.
Exactly, because the only result that we want to see is that people are learning and growing, because that leads to whatever success you want to see happening, and it leads to progress. And so it's just a simple shift that you need to make from no but to yes and, from oh no, this project screwed up, or you screwed up the project, to fantastic, what did you learn? To that curiosity that really leads to understand what actually happened and what others can learn from that too. And these are small shifts that everybody can, I think, apply and use, not just in their work, but also in their lives. And just imagine if you say yes to more ideas that are presented to you in your life, I think you're going to see more and more opportunities that are happening.
Okay, so we got the yes and, we've got the taking trips with no plan, seeing what happens, the fantastic what did you learn response. Any other top practices that you think make a world of difference in becoming future ready?
One of the biggest one for me, I think, is reframing. Reframing is such a powerful way to live your life, right? Where, to give you an example, like when the pandemic hit, I was tasked to lead a project called Project Reimagine for Google, where we try to reimagine how we work as an organization. And I gathered about 26 leaders for about 6 weeks. And what we tried to do is to reframe, right? How can we reframe, for example, that employees said that they now have to work from home towards I can work from home. That is a simple reframe that for a lot of people did something magical, because then they felt like, oh, I'm not forced because of the pandemic to work from home, but I see this as an opportunity now. I see this as an opportunity to be able to work from home. And that slight reframe helps you to, again, see more opportunities in maybe working from home. And you can go beyond that, where you say like, I can work from home, but I also can work from anywhere. This is another reframe that helps you to open up towards the possibilities that a pandemic might actually bring to you, where in the first place, you only see the negative, you only see the constraints, you only see the things that you're not able to do anymore. But with a reframe, you turn towards the opportunities. And reframing is such a powerful way that, again, you can do with a reframe from a no but to a yes and, but you also can do from a I have to work from home towards I can work from home, which is a reframe around your work.
Yeah, that is lovely because you see where that opens up for people. Some folks said, well, hey, guess what? Now I am doing my work on a boat and the family's on a boat. That's what we're doing. Or now we are in a little RV and we are camping all over the United States. Woohoo. And it seems almost wild. Like, what? It's like almost like it didn't even occur to us that that was possible or allowed to do that. It's like, oh, I guess we could all do that. Huh. How about it? I see. Okay. Reframing. Keep them coming, Frederik. What else we got?
Let's consider empathy, right? It's something where we always thought like empathy is something that drains me, right? I have to put myself into other people's shoes and really understand what they need. And sometimes that's hard. Absolutely. But what I'm arguing for is expansive empathy. For example, that you also can have empathy towards your future self, which for me is a fascinating concept. If we imagine ourselves in the future, most of us would go to that picture of having a nicer car, a bigger house, a better relationship, being successful at work, whatever it is. But for me, empathizing with your future self means first that you're trying to imagine how you want to be in the future. And then we're coming back to these qualities around, hey, I want to be more kind, for example, in the future. And if I am imagining myself being more kind in the workplace, in my family, with my friends and so forth, and you're picturing that future and you're trying to make that visual really vivid and come alive every day, you're guaranteed to actually move towards that future. And there's some fascinating research going on at Stanford University where they actually showed some students pictures of their older versions of themselves. So they put VR headsets on the students. They projected their older versions of themselves, like let's say like in 20 or 30 years from today. And they helped them to really empathize with their future selves, to really understand like, hey, how do I feel in this future? How do I look? Who am I going to be surrounded by and so forth? And the more the people empathize with their future selves, the more they change their behavior in the right here and right now, which meant that most students reported back that they will actually put twice the amount into their retirement funds right now. Plus, they will start to live a more healthier lifestyle right now, which means that as soon as you create a clear vision of your future self, you actually change your behavior in the right here and right now. And for me, that's something very powerful when we think about empathy, not just about empathy for others, but empathy for our future selves.
Yeah. Well, now you said the word interact and VR headset. So, I mean, I've seen how you can sort of progress a photo. It's like, oh, that's what I might look like when I'm 70. Okay. But when you say interact and VR headset, so it's like is the age itself speaking back to me?
The beautiful thing is that we don't need any technology for that, right? We have a mind that is capable of imagining. And if we use it in a way that we imagine our future selves, not just again in these ways that we say like, oh, I want to be more successful or I want to have more money or a bigger house, whatever it is, but imagining your future selves as with these deeper human qualities, doing that more often is a practice. It's something we can train ourselves in. And the research is very clear. The better we get at it, the more changes we'll make to our life and lifestyle right here, right now. And I think that's very compelling because everybody wants probably to live a healthier lifestyle. They want to probably live a better life in the future and so forth. But don't start with the materialistic things or the things that are out of your control. Start with what's in your control, which is the deeply human qualities that you want to develop and grow towards.
That's powerful. I'm also thinking about Peter Attia's book, Outlive, in this context, in which he says, I'm training for the centenarian decathlon, which is a lot of syllables, but just the notion of when I'm 100 years old or in the last years of my life, what would I like to still be able to do? And if that is what I want to still be able to do, then I better build some strength right now, knowing that some of it will fade in my final years. So it's intriguing. So just as imagining that leads to, I better do some more retirement saving. Okay. It may also lead to, I better do some more exercising. and then any number of positive things that need to unfold starting now for then.
Absolutely. So what would be something for you, Pete?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was thinking about exercise in particular. And so just thinking about, as I have some family who's aging and experiencing some health things, it's clear that this comes for all of us. And so to the extent we want to have truly a good mobility and functionality, like there's just some physical stuff to be done in terms of strength and cardio stuff. And so that's just in a way that's a little bit shallow. It's like, yep, that's just biological reality. True. But when you talk about kindness, that's intriguing because there's not as clear or well-researched a path and protocol that I'm aware of that is like, yep, this is the tried and true means of getting kindness gains the way there is muscle gains. So we could do a loving kindness meditation. We could engage in prayer and spiritual practices and connecting with the source of eternal infinite love. That sounds like a winning move. But in some ways, it's a big question. It's like, how does one, in fact, cultivate these traits we would like our future selves to have? And there's many, many potential options, and perhaps less of a prescriptive, this is known science knowledge base to draw from. Or maybe I'm underestimating what's already available in the research base. Frederik, lay it on me.
Yes, I think there's many things that we can learn from. And, it could be simpler things around kindness practices that are not just leaving you on a path or leading you on a path towards maybe happiness, right? But it's also interesting that if you show up more kind to other people, right, you're building community, right, of friends, right? And there's fascinating research now from Harvard around the longest study of happiness and longevity, which basically just tells you that the more friends and the better friends you have, the longer and the more happier life you have. So that means the quantity and the quality of your connections really matters. And so for me, it comes down to the question, how do you build more relationships and better relationships, right? And kindness is probably a great way to start. If you start with anger and like hatred, not sure if that's going to increase your friendships and if it's going to be making your friendships even stronger. I think it's the opposite, right? So starting with a couple of kind things that you can do to your friends or to strangers will actually increase your community. And so the more friends you have and the better these relationships are, the longer you live and the happier life you live. And I think that's very compelling research that is building on something you said, which is like we can physically train ourselves for the future to be physically fit, but we can also mentally train ourselves to be mentally fit for the future. And then we can also train ourselves to be what's probably like more towards the heart and spirit around the future. And I think all three are very important, but we sometimes just neglect all of those. And we're focusing on the futures that we think are going to be dictated by robots and technology and other things that are shared in the news and mostly with dystopian future images that are shared globally and widely. And it's fascinating for me that our brains just love to see those dystopian futures, again, like to protect us and say like, oh, I don't want to have that future happening. I think it's going to be a wonderful future. It's going to be a better future if you're going to engage in training your mind, training your body, but also training your soul for the future. And there's very easy things that we can all do moment by moment on a daily basis that really come back to these notions of being more optimistic, more open, more curious, experiment a little bit more with different approaches, but also show empathy, not just for others, but of ourselves as well.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Frederik. Big thanks to Frederik for sharing his wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out.
One sponsored checkout is Bamboo HR. I love owning my own business, but I do not love doing government compliancy things. HR is hard, but Bamboo HR is easy. Bamboo HR is a powerful yet flexible all-in-one HR solution for your growing business. Wrangling benefits, onboarding, performance, recruiting, reporting, vacation time, trainings, oh my, can take hours. But with Bamboo HR, it can take mere minutes. Setting up a demo account is ridiculously easy. I didn't have to coordinate calendars to schedule a demo with a sales rep. Nope. I just created a sample account with sample data within 3 minutes of visiting their website, so I could immediately behold its vast capabilities. The software is genuinely beautiful in its breadth and simplicity. No wonder 34,000 companies trust Bamboo HR with their HR needs. So reclaim your time and check out the free demo at bamboohr.com/free demo. See for yourself all that Bamboo HR can do and how truly affordable it can be too. That's bamboohr.com/free demo. One more time, bamboohr.com/free demo.
One sponsored checkout is EarthBreeze. I recently saw a Netflix documentary that talks about all the plastic that we throw away and we try to recycle, but it doesn't really get recycled. So I've been trying to reduce my plastic, and the most wonderful way that I've been doing so has been skipping those gigantic laundry detergent bottles for EarthBreeze detergent sheets. EarthBreeze detergent comes in super convenient cardboard, plastic-free packaging, so it's much more eco-friendly than your normal detergent. And I love how portable and quick and easy they are, and I save a pretty reasonable amount of time skipping having to carefully pour and measure liquid detergent into the machine by just tossing in a quick and easy sheet in there. I personally like their scent-free version, so check out EarthBreeze for an easy way to get clean clothes without the plastic waste and get 40% off with your subscription at earthbreeze.com/awesome. That's earthbreeze.com/awesome. Now tell me about some of your favorite things. Could you give us a favorite quote?
One I really find profound for myself that really influenced my thinking is from Anais Nin, who said, "We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are."
All right. Thank you. And a favorite tool? Something you use to be awesome at your job?
I don't know if it's a tool, but I found that meditation for me is a practice that is so fascinating because just experimenting with it and giving it a try has a profound impact on my life and who I am. And so I want that others explore that too.
Okay. And is there a particular nugget you share that really seems to connect and resonate with folks?
The future is something that you create, and it starts with your choices and it starts in your mind. So that's one of the core principles that I want to help people to understand, that the future is not decided by something else or someone else. It's created by you in every moment. And it starts with the choices you make, and it starts in your mind. And you have influence over your choices and you have influence over your mind. And so I think the powerful message here is that everybody has the ability to really shape the future they want to see happening.
All right. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere on your favorite platforms. I also have what I call a next letter that helps you to engage in experiments. And I share stories of individuals that live future ready. And it comes every second Friday. It's for free and you can sign up. You can find it with my name and next letter. Feel free to join that community.
All right. And do you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their jobs?
The next time you feel like a no or a yes, but to something that is an idea or perspective of someone, try to reframe that towards a yes or a yes and see what it does to you.
All right. Frederik, thank you. This has been fun. And I wish you much good stuff next.
Thank you so much, Pete. Yes, see you in the future.
I really love what Frederik had to say about the future self and how visualizing that, conversing with that person in your imagination, doing VR stuff, writing letters, it has so much cool, powerful results with regard to saving for retirement or for healthy eating and working out and just all the kinds of smart things we wish we would be doing now for our future selves. By engaging in that, it really does cool things. And I'm reminded of a conversation we had back in the day with Tara Moore in episode 267, Managing Self-Doubt to Tackle Bigger Challenges. She talks about how imagining you speaking to an older, wiser version of yourself can often be so powerful in calming self-doubt, worries, anxieties, and taking a bigger, broader, wiser perspective about the situation you're in. And just like Frederik was talking about, opening us up such that we are better able to discover, embrace, and take advantage of opportunities. So I recommend you engage with your future self one way or another, whether you whip out the headset or write a letter to yourself or just do some nice imagining, visualizing. A powerful technique for sure. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we referenced, please drop on by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP994. I hope to catch you next time, and peace.
This is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.